It was 3:21 a.m. when the internet exploded. The anonymous blog post hit first. Project Lazarus, the billion-dollar secret behind Blackwell's fortune. Then came the whistleblower files, uploaded to 3 mirrored servers, impossible to scrub, with over 400 pages of confidential documents. By 4:09 a.m., it was trending in 12 countries. By 7:00, Blackwell Enterprises stock dropped 14%. By 8:00, the media vans surrounded the front entrance. And by 9:00, Emily Carter had a bounty on her head. She didn't sleep. She didn't blink. She sat at her desk, breathing through the storm as if she had been born in it. Alexander hadn't come in. Not yet. She didn't care. She wasn't doing this for him anymore. She was doing it for the kids they buried, the voices they erased, Tyrell, every kid who never made it off the spreadsheet. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. "You made a lot of enemies last night. Might want to check under." "Your car." Emily froze. She dashed to the window, looked down at the garage, then immediately called security. "Lock every floor, sweep my vehicle. If anything looks off, don't touch it." Seconds later, one of the guards called back. "We found it, ma'am." "Found what?" "A pressure trigger under your car. If you started the engine, it would have gone off." Emily's breath caught. They tried to kill her. She stood still for a full minute, letting the truth settle like iron in her veins. Then she picked up her phone and called the only man who could answer for this. "Alexander Blackwell." His voice was quiet when he answered. "I know." Her voice shook, not with fear, but fury. "One of your people tried to blow me up." "No," he said. "One of my father's old allies. Someone still loyal to the Lazarus Circle. I want names. I'll give them to you," he said. "But you need to get out of the city today." "I'm not hiding." "They'll come harder next time, Emily." She clenched her jaw. "Then let them. I'm not afraid." But Alexander's next words chilled her. "Don't be brave right now." His voice cracked. "Just stay alive, please." That was the first time she'd ever heard fear in his voice, and that was the moment she realized this wasn't just a scandal anymore. This was a war, and someone inside Blackwell Enterprises wanted her dead before she could uncover the final truth, because Project Lazarus wasn't finished. The executive floor was supposed to be the safest space in the building, surrounded by security, monitored 24/7. But Emily knew better now. Security meant nothing when the threat was already inside. She returned that afternoon to clear her files and prep the next leak drop. She hadn't told Alexander where she was going. Not because she didn't trust him, but because she didn't trust anyone he trusted. As she walked through the glass corridor to her office, she felt it. The shift. The silence. People avoided her eyes. Even the receptionist, Carla, the one who used to smile at her every morning, looked down nervously when Emily passed. Something was wrong. Inside her office, she found it. Or rather, she didn't find it. Her laptop, gone. Her burner, phone's gone. The USB drives where she stored the Lazarus backups, wiped. She spun, heart pounding, and slammed open the side closet. Empty. Every piece of evidence she hadn't leaked yet was stolen. Her breathing quickened. She grabbed the emergency panic phone Alexander had given her, but before she could dial, the door behind her clicked. She turned, and there, standing in the doorway like a ghost from her nightmares, was Brian DeWitt, Alexander's long-trusted head of strategy. Buttoned suit, ice-cold expression, and a sleek black pistol in his hand. "Hello, Ms. Carter." Emily's voice was calm, but her heart was screaming. "You took it." Brian gave a small smile. "Don't look so shocked. You made it easy. Running around like a hero, making noise." He tilted his head. "I warned Alex she'd be a liability, but he didn't listen." "You work for Hallstrom," she said bitterly. "No," Brian replied. "I work for what Blackwell used to be, before you poisoned it with your morality." He took a step closer. "And now I have everything. The drives, the identities, the last pieces of Lazarus that never should have seen light." Emily slowly moved her hand toward the edge of the desk. "You're not getting out of here with it." "Oh," Brian said, smiling wider, "but I already have." Then he raised the gun. Emily's world slowed. She lunged sideways, grabbed the metal lamp, and threw it full force as he fired. The shot missed, shattering the glass wall behind her. She bolted for the hallway, alarms blaring. Security shouted. She didn't stop. She couldn't. Brian was right about one thing. He had everything, but he didn't know what she still had, because Emily hadn't uploaded the final Lazarus folder to the servers. No. She had hidden that in a place no one could hack, wipe, or find. Tyrell. As she ducked into the stairwell, chest heaving, bruised but alive, she called her brother. "Plan Red," she said breathlessly. He didn't ask questions. On it. Because if Blackwell's people wanted to play dirty, Emily Carter was about to play feral. The internet went nuclear. Tyrell dropped the final Lazarus folder onto a ghost server at 3:33 a.m., encrypted under a simple but chilling title, "The Children They Buried." It hit harder than the first leak, not just because of what it contained, photographic evidence, testimonies, death certificates doctored by elite clinics, but because this time it had names, real names, of board members, of senators, of doctors, and worst of all, and Daniel Blackwell. But there was one name Emily hadn't expected, one that wasn't in any spreadsheet, a name that made her heart stop cold the moment she saw it printed beside a project tag that read, "Subject, 0 genetic trial Blackwell variant." The name was Evelyn Blackwell. Emily blinked, sat down, her hands shook. That name didn't exist in the company records, not on the family tree, not in any press releases or legacy statements. She dug deeper, cracking into the sealed Lazarus genetic archives, and there it was, a birth record, female, born 1996, mother, unknown. Father, Daniel Blackwell, sibling, Alexander Blackwell. Emily's voice was barely a whisper. He has a sister, but it was worse than that. According to the files, Evelyn wasn't just a child hidden from the world. She was the first Lazarus child, the prototype, raised off-grid, monitored, drugged, enhanced, a ghost created to prove that genetics could be molded for power. Emily's stomach twisted. The document suggested Evelyn had survived every treatment, which meant she wasn't dead. She was out there. And suddenly the ambush in her office, the stolen drives, the coordinated silence on social media after the leaks. It wasn't just Brian, it was her, Evelyn, the missing Blackwell, the one bred from darkness itself. Emily stood slowly, eyes burning with realization. She wasn't just fighting old money and dying corruption now, she was fighting a bloodline engineered for domination. And Alexander had no idea his secret sister was alive and pulling the strings from the shadows. Her phone rang. It was a scrambled number. She answered, and a woman's voice, smooth, sharp, with the eerie calm of a predator, spoke. "You've made quite the mess, Emily. But don't worry, I'm coming home soon, and when I do, I'll clean it up myself." Click. Emily stared at the screen. Evelyn Blackwell was real, alive, and coming for her. Alexander stood frozen in his private office, eyes locked on the screen. He had just read the file, the one Emily placed gently on his desk like a loaded gun. Evelyn Blackwell, daughter of Daniel, sister of him. I don't understand," he whispered. His voice, usually a storm, was now barely smoke. "He never told me." Emily stood across from him, arms folded tight across her chest, face grim. "Because she wasn't part of your world, she was part of his experiments." Alexander sat slowly, his hands running through his hair. "He hid a sister from me, a child he created like a lab product, and then erased." Emily slid the final photo across the table, a grainy shot taken just weeks ago. Evelyn, tall, raven hair, same sharp jawline as Alexander, but her eyes weren't like his. They were cold, reptilian, emotionless. "She's not just alive," Emily said quietly. "She's already inside." Alexander looked up. "Inside what?" Emily's voice hardened. "The company, the systems, the people around you. She's been moving pieces for months, maybe years." Alexander's stare turned into steel. Why? Emily didn't hesitate. Because she believes it all belongs to her. A long silence. Then Alexander stood and slammed a fist onto the table, hard enough to rattle the glass. He bred a monster and called it legacy. No, Emily said. He bred two, but only one of you fought to become human. Alexander looked at her, something raw in his eyes. She'd never seen him so wrecked, so shattered. But he didn't crumble. He straightened his spine. Where is she? Emily stepped closer. I don't know, but I've got a lead. One of the old Project Lazarus labs, shut down 5 years ago or so they claimed. He nodded. We go together. No, she said firmly. I go first. She'll expect you. She won't expect me. Alexander didn't like it, but he didn't argue. Because deep down he knew Evelyn wanted to face Emily. Not because of the Lazarus files, not because of Blackwell, but because Emily was the only one she hadn't been able to control. That night, Emily geared up for the drop. The coordinates led to an abandoned biotech complex deep in the woods outside the city. As she approached the gates, flashlight in one hand, knife in the other, the air turned too still. The power was still running, the security cams still clicked, and on the main entrance, spray-painted in crimson red, "Welcome home, sister-in-law." Emily froze. Her breath caught. The doors creaked open by themselves. She stepped inside, and the steel gate slammed shut behind her. From the speakers overhead, Evelyn's voice echoed through the building. "Let's see what makes you so special, Emily Carter. I was born in fire. You crawled out of the dirt. Let's see who survives." The dark. The lights flickered to life with a low electric hum. Emily stood in a long, sterile corridor of white steel and glass, its walls smeared faintly with age, dust and something that looked like dried blood. She clutched her flashlight tighter. The air was thick with bleach and memories, and the deeper she stepped into the heart of the Lazarus lab, the more it felt like the building itself was watching her. Overhead, Evelyn's voice poured through unseen speakers like poison wrapped in silk. "This place was never a lab, Emily. It was a womb, and I was the only one strong enough to survive the birth." Emily scanned the walls. Lining both sides were glass pods. Broken now, cracked and hollow. Each one once held a child, some no older than 4. Names were etched in faded ink on metal plaques. Subject 117, Subject 194, Subject 0023, Carter T. Her throat tightened. Tyrell had been here, caged, drugged, tested. She whispered, "I'm going to burn this whole place down." Evelyn's laughter echoed in reply. "Oh, you'll try, but first I want you to see something. A little family history." A door slid open on its own. Beyond it, a single screen flickered in the center of a dark room. Emily stepped in cautiously. The door slammed shut behind her. The screen lit up. Footage began to play. A man stood in a lab coat, face half-shadowed. Daniel Blackwell, younger, colder, a cigarette between his lips. Behind him stood a small girl in a glass cell, no more than 8, pale skin, dead eyes. "Subject 0 has exceeded neural mapping expectations," Daniel said, looking into the camera. "Cognitive speed 3 times faster than baseline. Emotional empathy, nearly 0. She is efficient." The girl didn't blink, didn't move. She was watching her father like a dog watches its master. "We will increase aggression simulations next week. Combat testing begins next month. If successful, we will begin mass replication in Phase 2. Emily's stomach churned. They weren't just building heirs. They were building weapons. The screen cut to black. Then Evelyn's voice returned, soft and venomous. "He raised me like a project. But you? You got lucky. You got love, freedom, choice. So tell me, Emily, why do they follow you?" Emily whispered into the dark. "Because I never wanted power." Silence. Then the floor vibrated. A metal door slammed open, and the lights began to dim one by one behind her. She ran, down winding corridors, past rooms filled with old equipment, restraints, torn notebooks with phrases like memory suppression, ineffective. Subject 112, euthanized for failure to comply. She reached the end of the corridor, only to find a mirror wall, her own reflection staring back. But there was something behind her, moving in the dark. She turned, knife raised. But it wasn't Evelyn. It was a child-sized mannequin, stitched together from prosthetics, wires, and bones, a grotesque imitation of a girl. And behind it, on the wall, in blood-red paint, she was the first, but you will be the last. Then a countdown began overhead. 0050 self-destruct protocol activated. Evelyn's voice whispered one final time, "Let's see if the street rat can outrun a legacy." Emily bolted. 4 minutes, 53 seconds. Emily sprinted through the rotting remains of Blackwell's buried sin. Lights blared red. Alarms shrieked. Steam burst from the ceiling vents like angry ghosts. The ground shook beneath her feet as old, forgotten machines whirred to life, some groaning like they hadn't moved in decades. She grabbed a metal handrail and launched herself through the next door, heart slamming against her ribs. Every corner looked the same, sterile walls, endless glass, and ghosts of children that had never been given a name. 3 minutes, 31 seconds. She reached the central stairwell, only to find the exit doors electronically sealed. Evelyn had locked her inside like a lab rat. Emily turned back, only to freeze. She wasn't alone. A figure emerged through the smoke-filled hallway. Black boots, long dark coat, raven hair, pale face carved with haunting symmetry. Evelyn Blackwell. She stood still, calm, untouched by the chaos around her. "Going somewhere?" she asked, her voice casual, elegant, terrifying. Emily raised her knife. "You locked me in here to die." Evelyn tilted her head like she was observing a puzzle that didn't behave. "I gave you 5 minutes. That's more than I gave the others." Emily's jaw clenched. "You're a monster." Evelyn's smile didn't fade. "No, I'm a result. You think I wanted to be this?" She gestured around. "I was built in a cage, taught to win, taught to destroy, while you were outside, free, weak." "You're the weak one," Emily said, breath heaving, "because no one followed you. No one loved you. You had to manipulate and murder to be seen." Something flickered in Evelyn's expression, something almost human. And then it vanished. She lunged. Emily dodged, slashed. But Evelyn moved like water, fast, trained. Perfect. A strike to the ribs, a fist to Emily's jaw. Emily crashed into a metal table, gasping. Evelyn stood over her, breathing steady. 2 minutes, 82 seconds. "You were always the test," Evelyn said softly. "The world needed to see what happened when power was given to a stray." Emily smirked through bloodied lips. "And it turns out the stray bites back." She slammed her foot into Evelyn's knee. The other woman staggered just enough for Emily to grab a metal rod from the floor and swing. Hard, it connected. Evelyn collapsed against the wall, momentarily stunned. Emily didn't wait. She ran, 1 minute, 25 seconds, back to the sealed stairwell. She ripped open the wall panel and began tearing at wires, sparks flying, the countdown blaring louder now. Behind her, footsteps returned. Evelyn, rising. Emily finally yanked the emergency override. The lights blinked. The door unlocked with a clank. 058. She turned to look back once. Evelyn standing in the flames behind her, eyes burning with something twisted and unreadable. "I'll find you," she said. "This isn't over." Emily locked eyes with her. "No, this is just where it started." She bolted, up the stairwell, out the hatch, into the woods. Behind her, the entire underground lab exploded, a fireball. Erupting from the earth, sending glass, steel, and history into the sky. She didn't stop running until her legs gave out, and when she looked back from the tree line, smoke rising behind her, she realized Evelyn wasn't dead. No, the real war had just begun. Emily didn't go to the hospital, didn't call the police, didn't even tell Tyrell she was alive until she was already halfway back to Manhattan, riding a stolen motorcycle with a cracked helmet and blood in her mouth. She was running on pure adrenaline, and one thought: Evelyn survived, and Alexander was hiding something. By the time she reached Blackwell Tower, the building was locked down. Security swarmed the entrance. Reporters howled from behind barricades, and 2 board members had already resigned in disgrace following the Lazarus leaks. She slipped in through a freight elevator, Tyrell once rewired for her, straight to the 60th floor, to his office. She walked in without knocking. Alexander was at his desk, hands pressed to his forehead, phone ringing off the hook. He looked up and froze. "Emily," he stood. His voice broke a little. "You're alive, She shut the door, locked it, and said nothing. He stepped forward, trying to touch her. "I thought you—" "Don't." The silence cut deeper than any slap. She took a step back, eyes sharp. "You knew about Evelyn." Alexander went still. "I didn't." "Don't lie to me," she snapped. "Not after everything. Your father didn't just make one monster, Alex. He made 2, and you can't keep pretending you weren't part of that legacy." "I never asked for it," he said quietly. "I've spent my whole life trying to escape his shadow." Emily laughed bitterly. "Then why did I find a second Lazarus site registered in your name?" Alexander blinked. "What?" She threw the document at him. A registry code, signed under an old alias, A.D. Blackwell. Abandoned facility, north of Maine, still online, same tech, same designs. "The only difference," she leaned forward, "you authorized it last year." Alexander's hands shook. "That's not mine, I swear to you." "Then who the hell used your name?" His face turned pale. He staggered back, collapsed, into the chair. "Oh my God," he whispered, "it's not me." Emily narrowed her eyes. "Then who?" He looked up, broken. "It's her." "Evelyn?" "No, someone worse." He pulled open the hidden drawer beneath his desk and handed her a photo. It was old, black and white. A child in a lab, maybe 3 years old, with a barcode burned into their forearm. A man stood behind them holding a clipboard. Emily froze. "That's Daniel Blackwell." Alexander nodded. "Look at the child's eyes." She looked, and then she saw it. Not Evelyn, not Alex. A third child. "No," she whispered. "I didn't know," Alexander said hoarsely. "He didn't stop with Evelyn. He tried again. A backup. Someone off-grid, hidden completely." Emily felt the world tilt. "You're telling me there's another heir?" He nodded slowly. "A third Blackwell, raised in silence. And if Evelyn is fire, this one is ice." Emily backed away, heart racing. "I thought I was fighting one monster." Alexander met her eyes. "We're in a game neither of us understands anymore." From behind them, a red light blinked on the screen. A breach alert. Tyrell's voice buzzed through her private line. You're going to want to see this. Someone just hacked into every Blackwell archive and signed the breach with one name." The screen blinked. A single word appeared. "Obsidian." Emily stared. "Who the hell is Obsidian?" Alexander's face went pale. That was the name they gave him in the lab. Obsidian. The word glowed red across every Blackwell server like a warning from hell itself. Within 10 minutes, the company's internal systems were down. Board members received anonymous texts. "You inherited a kingdom of corpses. Time to pay the price." The media fed a silent video file showing a silhouette walking through an abandoned Lazarus site, black gloves leaving fingerprints on every wall. And deep in the heart of Blackwell Tower, Emily and Alexander stared at the breach map, watching as every secure archive was dismantled in real time. "We can't trace it," Alexander said, voice hollow. "He's wiping everything, and leaving no trail." Emily's voice was sharp. "He doesn't need to run, he's already inside." Alexander turned to her, eyes wide. "What do you mean?" She pulled up the old lab photo again, the one of the child with the barcode, and then she enhanced it. There it was, a date, stamp in the corner, and something else, a lab technician's ID badge reflected in the glass. The badge read, "Dr. Lucian Graves." Alexander frowned. "I know that name." Emily clicked into the personnel file. "He disappeared in 2010. No resignation, no funeral, just gone." But the deeper she dug, the clearer it became. Dr. Graves didn't vanish. He erased himself and built someone else in his place. A name emerged, used in shell corporations, digital backchannels, hidden in algorithmic shadows. The name Lucian Vale, CEO of a quiet, barely known firm that had recently acquired a 10% silent stake in Blackwell Enterprises just before the first Lazarus leak dropped. Emily's breath caught. He's not just another child. He's the final evolution. Raised, trained, placed, and now inside the company with enough leverage to collapse it. Alexander's face turned to stone. He's not here to expose us like you did, Emily. He's here to erase us. That night, a message appeared in Emily's encrypted inbox. No subject, no greeting, just a single audio clip. She hit play. Her voice, low, calm, chilling in its precision. Evelyn was meant to be the weapon. I was meant to be the mind. You, Emily, you were the test. But now, the game ends. I don't want control of the company. I want to end the bloodline. And I'm starting with you. Emily stood alone in the dark, phone still in her hand, staring out over the city. The third heir, Obsidian, was here. Not just in their systems, not just in their legacy, but in the very soul of everything Blackwell stood for, and he didn't want to rule. He wanted to burn it all down. 3 days. That's how long Lucian Vale, aka Obsidian, had been tearing through Blackwell Enterprises from the shadows. In the 3 days, 4 major shareholders had resigned, 2 were arrested, and millions in assets vanished through cleverly timed digital black holes. Emily knew time was running out. If they didn't stop him now, there wouldn't be a company left to fight for. But to understand how to beat Obsidian, they had to find out where he was born. Tyrell drove them deep into Pennsylvania, into the Forgotten Mountains where an old government building lay rotting behind a fake lumber company. They passed rusted fences, half-buried cameras, and a motionless security drone with the Blackwell crest faded into the side. According to Graves's last known signal, Tyrell said as he parked, this is where he went off-grid. Emily stared up at the cold concrete building. This is where he built him, isn't it? Not built, Tyrell muttered. Unleashed. They forced the lock and crept into the belly of the building. Inside, complete silence. Old lights flickered. The walls were lined with decaying equipment, test stations, blood sample coolers, old CCTV units with broken screens. But in the back they found something untouched, a room still running on power. Inside, rows of data cores, a desk with 3 monitors, and handwritten journals, labeled with chilling titles, Phase 4, Cognitive Divergence, Observation, Subject. Oh, fail-safe, none. Emily flipped through the pages, her hands trembling. Graves hadn't just raised Lucien, he had trained him to be invisible, not just to the world, but to himself. Subject O shows no interest in domination, only deletion. He speaks of cleansing the timeline, believes the Blackwell name is a cancer. Evelyn had ego, Lucian has purpose. Tyrell read over her shoulder, his jaw tight. He wasn't made to lead. He was made to erase everything. Emily sat at the desk and tapped into the computer system. What she found was worse than expected. Lucien had been predicting every single one of their moves. He had backdated attack models based on Emily's behavior from the first leak. He had files on Tyrell's escape routes, and he even had surveillance footage of Alexander's childhood room from a hidden camera no one had ever known about. Emily's voice came out a whisper. He's not just ahead of us, he's been watching us from the beginning. Then the monitors flickered. A video feed activated. Lucien's face filled the screen. He was calm, pacing a minimalist apartment, fingers laced behind his back. He didn't look like a villain, he looked like a prophet. Hello, Emily, Tyrell. I assume you've finally reached the source good. You should know where the world ends before it collapses. He turned to the camera. I am the final Lazarus, not a weapon, not an heir, a reset. Blackwell will fall. The system that raised you to suffer and Alexander to rule ends now. I'm not your enemy, Emily, I'm your correction. The screen went black. A soft beep echoed from the far wall. Emily turned. A small device blinked red. A message scrolled across the screen. You have 10 minutes, the lab will burn too. Tyrell grabbed her arm. "Let's go." They ran, out through the corridor, into the trees, just as the entire building behind them erupted into a fireball of history, lies, and blood. Emily collapsed to her knees in the dirt, shaking. He wasn't playing chess anymore. He was wiping the board clean, and the final move was coming next. It started with a whisper, then a headline, then a global broadcast that stopped the world. At exactly 12 p.m., all major news networks were hijacked. Screens turned black. A voice, calm and emotionless, echoed across the globe. "You've been lied to. The world you know was built on suffering." And then Lucien's face appeared. Not masked, not hidden. He looked into the lens with a chilling kind of stillness, his eyes dark, hollow, but burning with purpose. "My name is Lucien Vale. I am the son of Daniel Blackwell, the last creation of Project Lazarus. For decades, your world has been ruled by the children of monsters, and today I show you the proof." What followed was a horror reel, images of lab-bred infants with surgical tags, footage from underground Lazarus chambers, clips of boardroom meetings where shareholders laughed while approving child experiments. And finally, a video of Alexander Blackwell as a teenager, touring a facility. Emily gasped. She remembered that file. She had seen it, but not that angle. Lucien had doctored the footage to make it look like Alexander was complicit. And then came the dagger. Lucien's voice returned, smooth and deadly. "But no tyrant reigns alone. There is always the hand behind the king." The screen cut to an image. Emily, standing beside Alexander, walking into the Lazarus archive, typing in passwords, looking directly at surveillance cameras, edited, twisted, weaponized. Lucien finished. "Her name is Emily Carter, the new chief of staff, the leak, the destroyer, the face of Blackwell's collapse. Do not follow her. Erase her." The feed cut. Silence. Emily staggered back from the TV screen. Her phone buzzed violently. Dozens of messages, threats, photos of her apartment. Photos of Tyrell. They weren't just watching now, they were coming. Alexander burst into the room, his face ashen. "It's everywhere. My entire network's frozen. Every contact is ghosted. I just lost $6 billion in capital." Emily looked at him, heart pounding. "He framed me." He nodded. "Perfectly. The media's eating it up. Even my mother texted me one word. Why?" She turned to Tyrell, who was already loading bags with backup drives. "We need to disappear now before the next move drops." But Alexander grabbed her wrist. "Don't run," he said. "If you vanish, it confirms everything." Emily stared at him, fury and heartbreak twisted in her chest. "You think we can fix this from inside?" Alexander exhaled. "I don't know. But I know if Lucien wants you gone, that means you're still the threat." Emily's voice turned ice. "Then I'll show him how dangerous I can really be." That night, with the world calling for her head, Emily Carter did the unthinkable. She went dark. She severed all ties, burned all trails, left behind everything but one final encrypted drive, and from the ashes of her name, she began building. Something new, not to protect Blackwell, not to clear her name, but to hunt Obsidian, not in the light but in the shadows, where monsters were born and where they would finally die.